This place has everything. I got some GameCube games, McDonald's toys, Big League Chew, and even some Family Guy DVDs. Shit. Well, I must have lost my keys when I went dumpster diving out back. Not here. Hey, what's that over there? Honestly, I'm not even surprised that happened. Hey. Is it bad that this doesn't faze me either? Well, this is probably a hint that I should talk about Pikmin while I have him and presumably others find my keys. When I was a lad, I had always seen the new Play Control port of Pikmin 1 on shelves of rental stores. And I had heard about Pikmin 2 on YouTube occasionally. I had even heard about Pikmin 3 when it was coming out, but despite this and the games being something I know I would have loved back then, I had zero interest in the series, which is weird since I was always a fan of any cartoony Nintendo game I tried. It took me until 2020's Pikmin 3 port for the Switch for me to give the franchise a shot, and what a shot it was. The amount of multitasking you could do was insane to me since I had never tried a game like it at the time. It was linear enough to ease me into the series, but it gave me the freedom to spend some time collecting fruit when I didn't want to do the main mission just yet. Every puzzle and boss were creative, the graphics were stunning, and Louie was a delight to deal with. The only problem though is that this is the only Pikmin game I've ever played. The other ones have always looked interesting to me, and knowing that you can get more freedom than you do in Pikmin 3 is intriguing. I just don't know which one to start with. I could go with Pikmin 2. Oh, hell no, I'm just gonna play the first game. You remember that Mario 128 tech demo that people thought was related to the next 3D Mario game? I bet you can't figure out what that was gonna turn into. Not a good game, that's for sure. Instead, we got Pikmin! Now, if you managed to avoid Pikmin for this long, you probably want to know what the hell these things are, right? Pikmin are these carrot-looking ass goofballs whose sole purpose is to be thrown and commanded to do different things. The series is mainly focused on multitasking and doing things as efficiently as possible. And I know that sounds bad, hell, that's the reason I never got into the series until a few years ago. But once you understand how the mechanics work and know how to spend each day, it becomes really rewarding. Now that I know you have a slight understanding about the series, we can actually start the game. Pikmin starts with the game's protagonist, Captain Olimar, flying through space and colliding with a meteor, sending him and his ship down to a planet that resembles Earth named PNF 404. After gaining consciousness, Olimar wakes up to see his ship completely destroyed. As soon as he realizes he's stranded and the only way to leave is by locating the missing parts of his ship, it hits him. There's toxins in the air. His suit's life support will only last him 30 days, so he has to make quick work if he wants to return home. Although in the time between Pikmin 1 and 2, he didn't actually upgrade his suit, so how come you can be there for as long as you want? Anyway, immediately after setting out on his adventure, Olimar comes across a red thing sticking out of the ground he names an onion due to its shape. Once Olimar gives it a slap, the onion gives birth to a Pikmin. After this, you're pretty much set to go build up an army and prepare to kick some ass. Across PNF 404, you'll fight yellow balls with legs, nightmare fuel, bread, goop, and a lot more before going home. The initial day you and your new friends spend in this game is utterly genius. There aren't any enemies here, nor is there a time limit like every other day, but it doesn't feel like a full tutorial. Of course you're told you can pluck Pikmin and pick things up, but those are screens that you can get through in less than 2 seconds and be off on your merry way. Once he's plucked enough Pikmin to really get somewhere, Olimar and his pals come across the single most important thing they need to actually leave this area. Gotta love plot convenience. You can even come back here around day 8 to fight this abomination. You can do so in a few other areas with different bosses like the Smoky Prog. As soon as you get the engine back to the ship, you aren't allowed to do anything for the rest of the day and have to move on, so I'd suggest getting every single Pikmin you can for an advantage on day 2. Following the launch, we're brought to this game's map screen. There's 5 areas in all, but we can only go to 1 right now, being the Forest of Hope. Right off the bat, you're completely let off the leash and are free to go find anything you want before the day is over. Right here is where you can pretty much tell if Pikmin is for you or not, and I found out really quick that this is what I've been looking for a long time. Similar to Metroid, you're guided by the layout of the area instead of a tutorial. The only path forward is by breaking this wall in front of you, which you learn you can do in the impact site. Once you break that one, you find more throughout the map that lead you to more and more ship parts and a new color of Pikmin. There's 3 types of Pikmin in all, red, blue, and yellow. Red Pikmin are the strongest and are immune to fire. Yellow Pikmin can be thrown higher and are the only ones that can hold bombs? Okay, sure. And the blue Pikmin can run around in water without dying. Having multiple colors brings along with it some really fun puzzles like this one in the Forest Navel that has you use all 3 to get a ship part down from a ledge. Now that all the explaining's out of the way, I really like the Forest of Hope. It lets you get familiarized with how the game works and what to expect going forward. Some of the enemies have no fucking mercy at all and will destroy a bunch of your Pikmin like it's nothing, forcing you to reset continuously if you want to maintain a decent army. It's not like the game is ridiculously hard either. Hell, I'd go as far as saying it can be really easy at points, but it is absolutely not gonna pull its punches. To get anywhere in Pikmin, you need to learn strategies for most enemies, since brute force likely won't work. For instance, you are not going to get anywhere by just chucking your men willy-nilly at this guy, because he will crush them. Back to the Forest of Hope, you'll learn fairly quickly that you can't just learn strategies for enemies, as multitasking is a big part of being successful in Pikmin. Having less than 20 minutes for each day requires having little bands of Pikmin doing things at once and constantly running around the map to check on them. I will say, not having a dedicated run button for when you need to go all the way across the area is a little annoying, but Olimar is quick on his feet, so it really doesn't matter too much. But I do think the two bosses here are kinda underwhelming, if I'm being completely honest. The Armored Cannon Beetle can be killed by throwing one Pikmin into his blowhole and wailing on his back. And the Burrowing Snagret shtick is just that he eats one Pikmin at a time very, very slowly. It feels like I'm throwing my Pikmin at punching bags. I still like a lot of the stuff here, specifically the ship parts themselves. It's fun to see exactly what's next, even if some of them seem really pointless.
Alrighty boys, we got ourselves another loser who lost something. Now don't get mad yet. He seems like a decent fella, so we might reward us for finding his keys. Time to rethink our strategy.
Hope the Pikmin are getting somewhere with my keys. Oh well, back to the game. The Forest Navel sucks! After the spectacle of the Forest of Hope, I genuinely expected something great here, and it's so aggravating. If I'm making good progress, I oddly don't feel the same satisfaction as usual when I'm doing good, and when I'm doing bad, 30 of my Pikmin get crushed at once and I have to go sit outside to calm down for a bit. The setting feels so grueling, and not seeing as far ahead of you makes it easy to feel like everything looks the same. Surprisingly though, everyone I've personally seen talk about the Forest Navel has had good things to say about it, so maybe I just suck at the game. Actually, I know I suck at the game, because why else would one of my complaints be if my Pikmin got crushed? Anyway, other than those few things, I don't have that big of an opinion on this place. If I was good at it, it would just be here, but since I'm bad at it, I absolutely hate the place. Now would be a good time to move on with the game, but I actually want to talk about something else first. These weird-ass enemy designs. I know it's probably odd for me to abruptly be talking about them now, but the Forest Navel is where I started to take notice. Really take the time to look at a Sheargrub and a Wollywog. Fucking creepy. Look at the Pikmin themselves, too. They have no pupils. 3 skinny, sharp fingers on each hand. And the feet look the exact same as the hands. Beady Longlegs. Fuck him. All you need to do to fight it is throw yellows and let him crush a bunch. Okay, done complaining. For now. The distant spring is downright cool. Just sucks that's the last main section of the game. If you weren't in the know already, Pikmin is a very short game, only taking around 2 to 5 hours to beat depending on your skill level. While shorter games can definitely be fun, I do wish these areas had just a bit more meat on their bones, and maybe another full area as a post-game. At the same time, you could also say perfecting a run is just as good of a post-game as more places to explore, but I'm more of a playing game once and don't touch it for a year kind of person. The only exceptions to that in my entire life have been Mario 64, Sonic 2, and Metroid Dread, but that's it.
Alright man, you know the mission. Split up into thirds, and each squad will attack one Bulborb each. Ready? Go! We did it, boys. Time to bring these keys back to that. Get pushing.
Where the hell are they? It's been almost 2 hours. I guess if I have to wait even longer, I might as well spend some time talking about the distant spring. Right off the bat, I'm gonna hate this place, aren't I? Most of the enemies here actually don't get in your way a lot, but the ones that do don't want you to forget their names. After the 6th time getting up to reset the console because a quarter of my squad died in a single blow, I just let them take it so I could move on with my life. Once I got past that, the rest of the distant spring was actually a breeze and well deserved it for the Forest Navel. Hell, I could probably do the rest with my eyes closed other than the stupid part where you can only bring a few Pikmin across at once unless you want a few of them to drown. In a game about not wasting any time, why the hell is this here? Weird bullshit like that aside, a really cool thing I noticed about the distant spring was how unnatural it felt. Places like the Forest of Hope actually felt like a real patch of land if you take into account that if you look at it from a human's perspective, it's insanely small, while in the distant spring it feels like a little kid or a grandma in her garden could have made these tiny pathways. Back to the game, the rest of the distant spring pretty much just builds on the mechanics of previous areas like having you haul blue Pikmin throughout the water to create a bridge, bringing a ton of bombs to a wall, and another puzzle that requires you to use multiple Pikmin types by incorporating candy pop buds that allow you to change the color of Pikmin in your squad. You're never required to use these outside of this one puzzle, so it took me a bit to realize what was going on at first, but when I eventually did, it felt so good.
This is hell. I don't know who keeps shooting all these Pikmin, but they finally got Omar. That bastard fought until the end. I respect him for it. I may be the only one left standing, but all I have to push these keys step by step. A promise is a promise.
Okay, I'm getting really impatient. I hope that son of a bitch didn't steal my keys. Since he's not back, I might as well keep going. Once you've collected all of the required and optional ship parts, you unlock one last challenge, the final trial. You actually don't even need to come here if you have all the required ship parts, and you can just wait out the clock until it's 30 days if you really don't want to do it. But if you have the time to spare, grind Pikmin for a few days and then at least give it a whirl. The final trial is just one straight shot to the final boss. You want to make good use of your time, but if you have a few days to spare, then end the day as soon as possible if you have everything done up to the boss. The puzzles themselves all make use of each Pikmin's abilities. The blues have to go through water to build bridges, the yellows have to find the bombs to break the walls, and the reds have to go through the fire to push the box. It's all shallow, but feels urgent with that song playing in the background. Once we break the wall, we actually want to hug this wall and break a part of it to serve as a base for the fight. Once you have all your Pikmin set up there, take a yellow with a bomb and kick his fucking ass. This is Emperor Bulblax. He's fat, gross, moldy, lazy, and I hate him. There's two ways to mess with this asshole depending on what kind of player you are. If you don't like being risky as much, take one bomb at a time and let him eat it and slowly get damage on him, or just absolutely let loose. I like to do both since it's a straight shot back to the onions to supply yourself with more Pikmin, and it's pretty fun to do. Going exclusively with the strategic way is honestly really boring, so not doing that adds a bit of challenge, artificial or not. Once you deal the final blow, Olimar slices him open, gets his piggy bank back, and takes it back to the ship, effectively letting hundreds of Pikmin die just to get his sweet, sweet money. As soon as the piggy bank is safe, Olimar wastes no time and tries to get back home, but not without a stupid looking send-off from the Pikmin. Finally, once they're done being dipshits, the Pikmin let Olimar leave and go off to spend the rest of their lives massacring whatever comes in their way. Until Olimar comes back with this asshole an hour later, and just like that, the game is over. You get a screen at the end showing how you did like in Luigi's Mansion, a staff roll, and one of those credit sequences where it shows all the enemies like in Donkey Kong Country, but there's really nothing to do after beating the game outside of the challenge mode. Even a new difficulty after getting every ship part would have been fun. Just make Pikmin take more damage and have days last less time, and you have a whole new thing. It'd be great. What the fuck took you so long? Did you know I had to sit here for over 10 minutes?
Fully your ungrateful ass knew how much I went through today. Now, where's my reward? Think I deserve something for how much labor I just did.
I'm not gonna pay you. I had to wait here for what should have been 5 minutes. But I will let you finish talking about the game with me.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, that was Pikmin. Overall, I think it was a good game, but it has a lot that could be improved on, like the Forest Navel and a better Pikmin variety. Red, blue, and yellow get the job done, but maybe sprinkle one or two more in. And hell, while you're at it, it'd be cool to have a Pikmin game with no limits whatsoever. Just no day limit, or even having to keep your juice stocked. Oh, and I want to go underground, I want to have a multiplayer mode, a money system, a post-game, and all around just a beefier experience.
Didn't you just describe Pikmin 2?